Hi, I'm Jeff, and today we're going to talk about how to do the straight edge and feeler gauge method alignment of a shaft using the Lovejoy 3-jaw flexible coupling. In industry, there are several applications where you're going to see the need for coupling a shaft to another shaft end to end to have a one-to-one power transfer. You'll see this in a lot of pumping applications like hydraulic pumps or maybe even a vacuum pump or fluid transfer. The whole idea is, once again, you have a one-to-one power coupling between the motor and whatever the device is that you're trying to turn. Well, trying to line up these shafts can be, somewhat problematic, but the thing of it is, the closer you get them, whenever you're trying to set it up, the longer it's going to last, which means you're going to require less maintenance as time goes by. There are 4 different aspects that we need to consider whenever we're doing a shaft alignment. First off, I want to talk about parallel, okay? Well, idealistically, whenever our shafts are aligned properly, the center line of each shaft will be in perfect line with each other and parallel, okay? So when I talk about parallel, consider, just like you learned in geometry class, what it means for 2 things to be parallel. This is considering parallelism on the horizontal plane, whereas this would be considering parallelism on the vertical plane. We're going to be working in both planes today, and by the law of right angles, as long as you consider both planes, you have to be in alignment, okay? Now, again, that's the parallel aspect, but now also we have an angular aspect, okay? And as you might guess, right now what I'm demonstrating is misalignment in a horizontal angular fashion, whereas this would indicate a misalignment in a vertical angular fashion, okay? Today, we're going to talk about how to account for all of this in the installation of a flexible coupling. The coupling we're going to be installing today is a Lovejoy 3-jaw flexible coupling. As you can see, the components here, we have 2 halves. These couplings have a 5/8 diameter center hole, and they are keyed, okay? This is not a proper installation yet. We'll see that here in just a minute. And it also comes with the rubber insert, the whole idea being that whenever these couplings come together and we do the best that we can to get them in the closest we can get to perfect alignment, there's still going to be just a little bit of give there that will be forgiving for the error that we have in our installation. The supplies that we're going to be needing are basically an assortment of shims so that we can get our pillow block bearings adjusted to the right height and the right angle. We also have 2 pieces of 1/8 inch shim stock, square shim stock, and straight edge. And of course our feeler gauge, and the tools we'll be needing, of course, are going to be our hex key to be able to set the set screws and our couplings and our bearings as well, and then something to tighten our mounting bolts. We've got a 1/2 inch socket on a ratchet and a 1/2 inch combination wrench. The idea here is that, once again, I've already got my motor mounted. I did have a little bit of a soft foot issue, but I've got that corrected already. And I'm going to go ahead and install the 3-jaw coupling on the motor shaft. Now, the thing of it is your shaft key should fit fairly snug in the groove that's on the motor shaft. And when you align that with the shaft, with the keyway and the Lovejoy coupling, it should all feel pretty snug, and it does. Now, what we want to do right now in our installation is we want to take care and make sure that the shaft of the motor is basically flush with the surface inside of the jaw. And go ahead and snug up your set screw. Make sure when you tighten your set screw that you're getting a snug fit directly on top of the shaft key, and the shaft key should be long enough that it covers all of the mating surface between the coupling and the motor shaft. These are our spacer blocks, and these are the pillow block bearings that we're going to use to support the shaft. I'm going to go ahead and take my fasteners. I'm going to go ahead and put my bolts in to hold the blocks in place. But I'm not going to tighten it down. This is all going to be a pretty loose fit. And I'm going to go ahead and install the shaft now so we can get a rough idea of where everything needs to be placed as I put it together. This is a 5/8 diameter shaft. This shaft has basically keyways cut at each end of the shaft, and it's also got a flat cut on one side. So what I'm doing is I'm feeding the shaft through. I'm going to have one bearing placed here, and again, we have the luxury of putting our bearings where we want to here because obviously this is a trainer, but if you're doing this in industry, you're going to have to live with where your mounts are available, so just accept it that that's pretty much the way it's got to be. You're going to put the bearings where they need to be. Align our keyways, slide it together, and it should have a substantial amount of drag, which means basically it's tight and it's not going to move around. And again, like we did with the motor, I want to set it up so that the shaft key and the end of the shaft and the inside of the coupling wall are all basically flush. And then once again, I'm going to go ahead, snug up my set screw, getting it set, okay? Now, we'll come back and check all this stuff later, but right now we're just kind of snugging everything up just so that we can start our alignment process. Now is a good time to go ahead and install our rubber insert. The rubber insert, basically, if you put the jaws together, and you can see as they are without the rubber insert, we have all of this movement in here, okay? Basically, what the rubber does is it fills in all of that space. All right, and slide them together. All right, kind of loosely position our bearings where we want them to be. All right, and we're going to go ahead now, and before we do anything else, we're going to go ahead and just kind of halfway snug up the mounts for our pillow block bearings. Somewhat loosely tighten our fasteners. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take a look at where my coupling is at, just kind of get a rough idea of what's going on. And just by eyeballing this, zoom in there if you would please, just by eyeballing this, I can see already that this half of the coupling is lower than this, all right? And side to side, this half of the coupling needs to go in that direction, okay? So I'm going to start working on my height first. I've already had this assembled before, so I'm going to tell you that on this end, I had to raise these pillow block bushings 25 thousandths of an inch. So once again, make sure that you are putting the same amount of shim under both sides of the pillow block bearing, and that the shim slides in all the way so that it covers all of the contact area between the pillow block bearing and, in this case, the spacer block that it's mounted to, or in this case, mounted through. And I'm going to loosely tighten it again. Now, I still have a little bit of flexibility here. The amount of shim that I had there, it just worked out that I needed basically 10 thousandths on each end, or on each side, if you will. All right, let's see what we got here now. So I'm just kind of hand snugging it. All right. Now, notice we've got a gap here, but I haven't done anything to tighten up the shaft to the pillow block bearings at all. So what I'm going to tell you is the rubber insert here has bumpers on it that basically set the distance that the two halves should be apart. So I'm just going to kind of hold it together a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and snug up my pillow block bearing set screws, okay? Now, on the pillow blocks, each one of the pillow block bearings has two set screws, and they're basically 90 degrees apart from each other, okay? I'm tightening one down on the flat, and I'm tightening one down somewhere off of the flat, if you will. Same thing over here. I'm going to turn the bearing until it lines up with the flat on the shaft. Go ahead and snug him up, and then rotate to the other set screw. And I'm going to go ahead and tighten these down now, because I don't intend to have to loosen up to move it at all again. If I do this right, they are where they're going to be. First thing I want to do is I want to set a line of reference on this coupling. So I'm going to take my straight edge and draw a line here that I can use as my reference for all of the measurements that I'm going to be doing as I set this up. I want to focus on parallel first, okay? I mean, you got to start somewhere, but I'm going to go ahead and start on parallel first. So the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm just going to lay across the top of the coupling here from one half to the other. Now, and I'm right on top of that green line, but the thing of it is we want to have a space as little as we can possibly get it. What we're going to shoot for is 2/1000ths or better, okay? Meaning we have less than 2/1000ths offset in either direction between the two halves of the coupling. So what I'm doing is I'm going to take my 2/1000ths feeler gauge and I'm going to see if there's any place that it will pass between the straight edge and the coupling, and when I hold it tight, I can almost barely get it under there. So I would say with the amount of drag that I've got less than 2/1000ths clearance between the straight edge and the half of the coupling that's on the motor. That's pretty good. Let's just go ahead and turn it down here on the bottom and see if we have the same thing. The feeler gauge is not going in, so I feel in good shape. I feel like we have an excellent vertical parallel alignment. If I take my coupling and I turn it, and oh my goodness, yeah, this is off pretty bad. This is off pretty bad. I mean, it's quite visual. The thing that I'm looking at is, well, for one, line of sight. I can see it from line of sight. I've got a horrible problem. This thing has just shifted in this direction. Okay, so I've got my bolts semi-snug down, okay, but I don't have them tight enough that I would call it a finished product. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure I've got a little friction here, and I'm going to take my dead blow hammer and I'm going to move the bearing side to side. When you're using a hammer, use something that is sensitive to whatever it is you're trying to strike. A dead blow hammer is great because it's got the vinyl coating and you can apply a lot of force with just a little stroke here. You can see me moving the bearing side to side. Okay. Of course, now, even by feeling it here, I've got a parallel issue now, so I'm going to take this one and tap it over. More I'm going to take out by sight. Pretty good. Ooh, goodness, I have a pretty good gap over here. Yeah, pretty good gap over there. It rolls pretty free. When you're doing an alignment like this, you might luck out and get it in 5 minutes, or it may take you half a day. This is something that takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but that's okay. Practice is a good thing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. It looks pretty good. Be aware that every time that you try to adjust for something, any one particular alignment perspective, you're affecting all of them. Looks pretty good. Okay, looks good. I feel good enough about my parallel alignments to where I can really start zooming in and working into my angular stuff now, okay? So to do the angular alignment, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my feeler gauge now. Where's my green line? There's my green line. And I'm going to measure the distance, the gap, if you will, that I've got right here. Here's 35/1000ths. A little bit of drag. Okay, let's move it back on the other side. That's tighter. Okay, what that indicates to me is, again, my shaft is turned in this direction from the perspective of the coupling. Remember, any adjustment affects every other adjustment. Oh yeah. Much better. Much better. It feels just about the same on both sides. That's great. Now, let's go ahead and check our vertical. We haven't messed with our vertical yet. Feels about the same as it did on the sides. Oh yeah, beautiful. Excellent. All right, and let's check our parallelism again. There's a green line. Okay. Looks good. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and snug everything up. Make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be after everything is tight. So once again, let's take our feeler gauge. There's our green line. Oh, beautiful. Well, I'll tell you what, I've done this a bunch, but I think I got really lucky. I think I nailed this pretty easy. One last snug just to make sure everything is where it needs to be. And there you go. This is shaft alignment, 3-jaw Lovejoy flex coupling using the feeler gauge and the straight edge method. Thank you.